I recently made a video titled Aging and the Solace of Solitude, which resonated with viewers. This video follows up on some of those issues. First is the issue of terminology. What do you call someone who enjoys solitude? Loner sounds a bit eerie, like a lone gunman at a shopping mall. Introvert sounds like a character in a 60s sex ed video who spends too much time locked in his room. Lone wolf, stag, maybe there's a romantic echo to that, but what about for women? How about terms like independent, self-reliant, mature, monkish, outsider, unsocial, antisocial, reserved, private, or shy? Solitude is a positive concept, but solitudinarian, which is a real word, would probably take more time to explain than a fan of solitude would like to invest. I guess introvert might be the best current functional term, but it seems like there should be a better descriptor. Or maybe you shouldn't explain at all, you just say, I am me. What do you think? Next, let me clarify that I am not a hermit. If you were to imagine a scale of socialization with never wanting to be alone on one side of the scale and always wanting to be alone on the other, I would fall about halfway between the middle and the hermit side. Now, I do have a brother who falls on the other side of the scale. He can't bear being alone for even a minute, and that may be the environment from which I've come. And in defense of solitude, it has an honorable history. I mean, Buddha sat under the Bodhi tree alone for 7 weeks. Jesus spent 40 days alone in the desert. Thoreau went to Walden Pond for solitude and said, I love to be alone. I've never found the companion that was so companionable as solitude. And Einstein, sharing an increased desire for solitude with age, said, I live in that solitude which is painful in youth, but delicious in the years of maturity. If you prefer solitude, you're in some pretty good company. I hope I didn't overstate this too much in my first video, because I do like and associate with people, but I also cherish my alone time. I tend to do long hikes with a friend or family member. At my age, I'm more prone to injury, illness, or error, and there's a safety factor to having company. Also, if I carried a selfie stick and made a video, I'd likely walk off a cliff. But I couldn't resist making that video with the backdrop of the Grand Canyon, or this one as well, but I did not hike alone. And yet, if you met me on the trail, you'd probably think I'm a friendly fellow. I strive to be cheerful and cordial, but that's as far as I take it. I don't want to be friends, I don't want to hear personal information, and I don't want you to join me on my hike. That is, unless I meet a person who's in trouble, and that does happen sometimes. Then I act as a good citizen and try to help my fellow man. But I did search my mind about solitude. You know, on rim-to-rim hikes, I see people in groups of 10, 20, sometimes 30, and that's my idea of hell. They're usually younger and past chattering to one another, seemingly ignoring what I find to be one of the most beautiful places on earth. I step aside and let them pass. They have every right to travel in groups, and I don't question their choice. It's just not for me. My primary exercise is walking, and I walk a few miles a day in an area with a network of deer trails that meander and cut across the area. I know the trails, and when I see someone coming, I make a detour to avoid that person. So, do I really avoid people? You bet. Given a choice, I prefer not to encounter them. And I think aging has played a role in this. When I was young, I liked the nightlife. I'd sometimes come home at dawn with a bunch of friends I invited over for breakfast. Back then, I used to wonder why I never saw older people in the nightclubs. Was it because they couldn't get dates? Now that I'm older, I know the answer. An evening with the pulse of the music and the push of the crowds sounds unpleasant to me. I'm no longer driven to find excitement. I'm content to find peace, and an evening with a book is all I'm looking for. And I'm going to go out on a bit of a limb here. Maybe hormones play a role. Perhaps in youth, hormones make men more aggressive, and with age, we become more mellow. And on the other hand, maybe hormones make women more cooperative, and with age, they become more individualistic. But for both, I think the desire for solitude increases with age. There's a derisive saying about aging, once a man, twice a child, it implies that dementia is inevitable and that one will regress with age. But reframed, it also has a positive side. I always wished for a time machine so that I could carry the knowledge I've gained back in time to live a better life. But age effectively is that time machine. As an older person, I'm freed from the responsibilities of a job and family, and I have a second chance to do it right. I can be a young man again, facing the world, but now I have the experience of a lifetime and maybe a bit more income and independence. Age is a second chance, a time machine, and an opportunity to be your true self. In my earlier video, I talked about traveling with my dog, and some people asked, if you're traveling with your dog, are you really traveling alone? Now, I thought I was unique in describing my dog as the one person in the world who is most like me, but apparently I'm not alone. I think dogs provide a trust and loyalty that's rare in humans, and they sometimes take on elements of both a child and a partner. But a dog will never leave you. I think dogs play a special role in many people's lives, and perhaps an even more important one in the lives of people who seek solitude. As I became less social, I used to make excuses for avoiding people. I have other plans, or I'm going to be out of town. But in the end, I've settled on being honest. For example, about a decade ago, some new, younger neighbors moved in. The wife said, "We're having some friends over, why don't you drop by for a beer?" And that's my idea of hell. So instead of making excuses, I decided to tell the truth. I said, honestly, I really don't like people all that much. And she surprised me by saying, my husband's the same way. We've been good friends and helpful neighbors since, but I've never had to decline another invitation to a party, which is perfect for me. I find honesty about my preference for solitude the best approach. And COVID, as tragic as it's been, has also been a liberating and clarifying process, I think both for me and for others. I'm a cancer survivor, and I took COVID seriously. When some friends who I'd previously socialized with regularly invited me to dinner, I chose to tell the truth again. Instead of making excuses, I said, I didn't survive cancer to risk dying of COVID. And they got it. For me, COVID was liberating and clarifying. It was an excuse to avoid socializing and revealed to me that's the way I prefer it. For some, COVID was a time of unpleasant isolation. For me, it highlighted that I'd rather spend time alone. I was never lonely. I think many people who desire solitude have had a similar experience. So COVID brings up another issue. All of the experts say that socialization and community involvement are essential for healthy aging. Says who? I know people who died in the first wave of COVID. Who is healthier? Those who were compelled to gather with others, or people like me who prefer solitude? And if you isolate out the health choices that may hurt those who prefer solitude, knocking down a few extra drinks, skipping colonoscopies, eating a TV dinner instead of a salad, is there any real health benefit to being social? I took a cursory look at the research and I could not find one. And how about studying monks who might live a life of solitude but without the other attendant health risks, and comparing their longevity? So in defense of solitude, I can say this: we have a long history of practitioners from Buddha to Jesus, Thoreau, and Einstein. I grew up on the late side of the hippie era, and there was an ethos of do your own thing. Or maybe for the SpongeBob set, well, good luck with that. I live near an open space and sometimes I see people doing odd things, but I've developed a practice of saying, is it illegal? If so, I call the cops. If not, I say, well, good luck with that. Enjoying solitude may be out of the mainstream. It may irritate those who like socialization and want others to be like them, but it's not illegal. Like Shakespeare said, to thine own self be true. I enjoy solitude and my appreciation of it has increased with age. I will not apologize for that. To quote another famous philosopher, Popeye, I am what I am. This is how I want to be. How about you?